Good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay? No? Yes. Good afternoon. My name is Nick Timpson. I head up the learning side of our Smarter Workforce business within IBM across Europe and EMEA. And I'm joined today by Lynsey Turnbull, who's our solutions consultant, who also helps support our UK customers and also our European customers. Today we're going to share some insights and patterns that we're seeing within the industry, and this is a lot of research that IBM has done itself across what we're seeing around the learning landscape. We're lucky enough to be involved in about 4,000 interviews with C-level representatives across major organizations globally. This happens annually and allows us to get a really good snapshot image of what is the sort of current thinking, what are the challenges that businesses face currently, but also looking at where they see trends going, what they believe the challenges will be in the future. So I wanted to share some of that with you today. We're not going to talk to you about learning management systems, you'll be glad to hear, because you've probably had quite a lot of that today. So we're not talking about the sort of formal training. What we're looking at is social and collaborative learning and knowledge sharing across the workplace. So let's just sort of look at some insights here. And please, if you look behind you, you'll notice our stand is quite handily placed at the back. So after this session, if you've got any questions, do come and see us afterwards. I'm more than happy to further any conversations or any questions that might come out of this session. But the purpose of this is I'm going to talk for about 10 to 15 minutes. I'll then pass over to Lynsey, where we will suicidally try and do a live demo to you with internet browser capability, I believe. And then hopefully we'll leave about 5 minutes at the end of the session for questions and answers. But if we don't manage that, then please do speak to us. And I've been told to use the clicker, not the laptop. So just to sort of set the scene, in terms of what we're seeing within the workplace at the moment is where organizations are really benefiting from is what we would call sort of the wisdom of crowds, and we all use this in our day-to-day lives anyway. If you search for, everyone has a mobile phone, for example, you might use your mobile phone to look for a restaurant in the evening or to ask questions or to Google things. Most of that information has come from the wisdom of crowds. It's other people's inputs and viewpoints which we all share, collaborate with on a day-by-day basis. And there's no reason why that kind of approach and technology and, I guess, culture doesn't fit within the workplace. And we're all starting to do that anyway. We're also very aware that the speed of information is paramount. Everyone is expecting to get information at their fingertips quickly, using mobile devices or rather said technology. And that is the norm nowadays. It's the expected across organizations. Mobile workforces, everyone tends to work remotely and is very transient. So being able to gain access to technology and using 3G, 4G networks and the internet to gain access to that is, as I said before, is the norm nowadays. And also we're seeing this sort of rise of independence within businesses where people look at finding information for themselves, not relying on the business to push it to them. We would, within IBM, sort of look at that as a sort of a buffet service where information is there available to people, but it's up to you to go and look for it and help yourselves. And with the nature of business as a whole nowadays, that I think is very much the case of culturally where organizations are. If you need information, go and look for it, and it should be made available to you. But ultimately, I was going to touch upon big data as well. And we do a lot of work, analytical data within IBM with big data, and it's looking at insight in data in terms of helping you make informed decisions based on what you're seeing as that data across your business. And ultimately, that is not only subjective data, but it can be predictive analysis as well. And not only looking at things in independence, but looking at patterns across different data sets, which we're starting to sort of see really interesting patterns in. So the key things that we're sort of seeing from interviews that we do, and I mentioned about 4,000 interviews a year, about 700 plus of those are with CHROs, specifically around where they see current challenges. And what we're seeing is HR is telling us that they need to find the ultimate roles that help the bottom line within businesses. What are the key roles within businesses which are really helping shape the future of that business and really moving it forward and not stagnate? We're also seeing organizations really addressing digital demand and opportunities. Again, Gaining access via mobiles and through technology to a repository of knowledge and being able to knowledge share across businesses is starting to become much more prevalent across the kind of industries that we're talking to. And that is across sectors. It's not just within a particular vertical or two. And ultimately, as I said before, using an analytics to really add value and gain insights and fill in the gaps of where there may be a lack of knowledge. So just to touch upon 3 areas, social in the workplace I think is a really critical thing, because we're seeing that bottom-up approach where it tends to be the employee, the workforce that is empowering that, which is sharing that knowledge. It's user-generated, and it's allowed people to connect with other people, like-minded people within their business, and share knowledge which is useful for them and useful to others, rather than that traditional thou shalt do this kind of approach within organizations. And we're seeing a huge increase in that, and that will just continue. Rise of big data and analytics in organizations, removing that gut feel. It's never going to go away. We'll always have gut feel, and often is the case. That is absolutely right. But it's supporting that with real data and real patterns in that data to be able to make informed decisions and be confident that the decision you make is right based on that data. And thirdly, that rise of mobile. I can't remember what the stats are, but it's massive in terms of the amount of people globally that have access to one or more mobile devices or tablets. And for people to start using those more frequently in business context, I think is just going to continue and increase. And let's not forget that people don't leave social collaboration on the doorstep, when they leave home, and they don't stop being social when they arrive at the workplace. It is a continuation that we see. So why try and stop it or curb it? Right, so engaging employees to grow the business. That's what we define as what a smarter workforce is. It's engaging with each of your employees to help grow your business. It's not about making people happy, although that is a byproduct of more engagement. If you want to make people happy in your workplace, you halve their targets and you double their salary. And that's how you make people happy, but it does not engage your workforce. You can have organizations and employees within organizations that understand the vision and strategy of the organization, but if they're not bought into that, if they don't feel part of that or don't want to be part of that and just want to get paid, you will not have an engaged workforce. So this is where we're trying to identify how you engage people, how you make sure you have the right talent in the right jobs, the cultural fit, all those different aspects to make sure people really excel and want to succeed for you and themselves within the business. So what are the challenges that we have been seeing as part of these surveys? I'm going to show a couple of graphs here because I think they're sort of quite key in terms of some of the findings that we're seeing. If you look at the front left of here, so currently we're seeing from a CHRO point of view, absolutely critical to the importance of engagement within the business is talent development, employee engagement and commitment, and talent retention. However, I think there is also an acknowledgement that no one is ever going to retain all their best talent. People will move on. That is just the course of life. That happens. You just have to live with it, and we'll learn how to manage that the most effectively. So if we look at future challenges from that same audience, the kind of challenges that they see over the next 3 to 5 years, talent development and retention is way down the scale. But what we're seeing right at the left is collaboration and knowledge sharing. How do we get that knowledge? How do we retain that knowledge? People will move on. We don't want to make sure that that knowledge gets removed from the organization by people moving on. We want to retain it, and how are we going to best do that? And also, we're seeing some really sort of key differentiators in terms of what outperforms. What are the financial outperformers within business? And if you look at the bottom here, I know it's one of the smaller graphs, but in terms of collaboration and knowledge sharing, there's a massive differentiation there. So again, that is seen as key within business in terms of the importance and the impact that that can play, that positive impact that knowledge sharing and collaboration can play within a business sector. And then I just thought I would just finish off on this part of the presentation with, what do we mean by social learning? And we're saying it can be defined as an exchange of information ideas supplemented by interaction with a person or professional network of collaborators. And we've got a number of different ways that we can be doing that. So socially and out of workplace, people have Facebook, Twitter, they have all these different accounts where people connect, and we can use similar methodologies and similar sort of ways of being able to collaborate and use that kind of methodology and technology within businesses to make sure we're retaining and sharing that knowledge. And also, in terms of the way businesses are currently using social and the applications they're using social in, it's happening, but in certain areas, and this is where we'll see a big growth area. For example, at the moment, we're using recruiting, e-recruitment. People use LinkedIn as a way of recruiting and looking for good employees and good potential applicants. That is a current, but when you look at the learning side, there's a lot of exploring, but there's not a huge amount of use there, and that is something that we're going to keep a very close eye on because we can see that starting to really grow in terms of becoming the norm within organizations. And how do we make a smarter workforce? Just some ideas for you in terms of the way that we adopt this internally and also with our customers we engage with. So we start with behavioural sciences. We start with employee engagement surveys. We do leadership workshops. We provide assessments and tests to look at the cultural fit within organisations, making sure that you have the right talent to start with, but also to make sure that talent is in the right job. We most certainly enable social and mobile collaboration. That is really part of our DNA, and I'm really proud of that because we really do practice what we preach on that one. And we offer an exceptional digital workplace experience, and that's what we're going to come to in the 10-minute demonstration at the end of my talk. And finally, back to that point of using big data to look at big data insights within your business and making sure that you're making those informed decisions. What does a digital experience look like? I've got a quick YouTube video I'm going to show, which is an example. It's a 2-minute video of an example of an organization, Boston Pediatrics, and the way they're using that social collaboration. So we're not talking LMS, we're just talking about knowledge sharing here. But I think it would resonate very well across all different lines of businesses. So let's try and click this on. And I'll show you this one, and then I'll pass to Lynsey, and she can show you a quick 10-minute demonstration of the tool in action.
I get asked to care for children who are traveling overseas, American children who become ill. And in this case, I was caring for a child who was in Guatemala. And the things that I was helping the doctor down in Guatemala with were things that I had learned here in Boston by taking care of another child. And I was taking that lesson and shooting it beyond the walls of our hospital here in Boston down to Guatemala. And she lived. But it wasn't easy to do that. We connected with each other through kind of crude telecommunications.
Dr. Burns got inspired by what he saw as a bottleneck in helping share knowledge outside of the hospital, and saw things IBM had done in the sports space and things he was seeing in the consumer world, and thought that in partnership perhaps we could find a way to create a new kind of platform to enable doctors.
This platform has exceeded our expectations for beta, and we've connected more doctors and nurses than we expected to do. We're in more than 70 countries at this point, and we have more than 1,000 users.
It's always accessible day or night if I'm at home, if I'm at the hospital, and I can download things to my computer and then always have access to those even if I'm not connected to the internet, so it becomes extremely portable.
It's really been fantastic to see people share their stories about how this has impacted care all around the world.
We've heard just this week how it actually helped save the life of a child in the Middle East. So we can roll up our sleeves and pull together on the care of a critically ill child, and IBM's helped make that possible.
Now, for me as a use case, that's pretty utopian. I think that really sells, really sells a story on that one alone. There's no tracking. No one's being judged in terms of what they've managed to do. It's a knowledge sharing tool. What is happening though is the information that is shared is stored for reuse. And I think that is absolutely what knowledge repositories, knowledge sharing is all about. It's, if you've got a great story, don't just share it with one other, get it out to the masses. We don't carve away through innovation and then use a brush to scrape our tracks behind us so no one else can use it. The whole purpose of that is to make sure if it works for us, it's going to work for others. Let's share it, and that's the whole purpose of that. And I think that's a great story. But I'll pass over to Lynsey now, who can fire up the environment, internet providing, and that should take us about 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Nick. Let me just pull up the system.
You have to
Okay, so my name's Lynsey Turnbull. As Nick said earlier on, I'm one of the solutions consultants that sits within the Smarter Workforce part of IBM. So I'm going to take you through a little bit of the social learning platform today and talk about where it came from, what it's made up of, and then we're going to go through a bit of a use case in terms of I'm a learner and I'm an employee and I'm looking for information, and I can show you how we do that. So what is social learning? Nick showed the video there that it was born out of the work that we did with Boston's Children's Hospital, and now we're bringing that into general companies or a product to the market. Now it's made up of all the traditional things that you would expect to see from an LMS that's done a great job of pushing content to people, tracking, recording, all that compliance stuff. We're not going to talk about that because, as Nick said, I'm sure you've seen quite a lot of that today. But it's also then made up of some of the social collaboration tools. Nick mentioned as well the digital experience, which basically means a good-looking system that is engaging for people to use. So we're moving away from that system of record to a system of engagement. So when you log on, it's persona-based, and the information that's surfaced is relevant to you. So you're not digging around to look for information. And it's also got within it an award-winning authoring tool. So an LCMS component as well. So if you want to author content, you can do. Now customers use part of it, all of it. It really depends on what you need. So I have actually logged in as myself as Lynsey. As you can see, it's surfacing information to me instantly. And so if Nick logged in, he's going to see a different set of information on there. Now it's what we call responsive design. So if I minimize that, start moving the screen round, you can see that all the information on the screen will resize. So if I'm accessing that on an iPad, it's got a slightly different size screen. It's that responsive design, which is part of that digital experience. Now, just to talk about a couple of things that are on the home page, we can have announcements there. So that might be corporate announcements that you're pushing out. I can see instantly some of my learning. So that might be my formal learning that's being pushed out to me. So that might be curriculums. We can lock down the order that they take it, their lesson plans, all that compliance that you'd expect to see in there. But we can take that one step further with this product as well. So we can make it personalised for them. We can also do what we call prescriptive learning. So if you've got compliance training that you want to push out to people, you get that email once a year, that dreaded email saying you've got to do your compliance training and you've got to sit through an hour's worth of training once a year. What we can do is prescriptive. We take the assessment, we put it at the beginning, we sit that assessment, and then based on the answers that we give to that assessment, it then delivers me the relevant content. So maybe instead of sitting there for an hour, actually I've only got 15 minutes. I'm much more engaged, I've got less time away from the business, so we can do that kind of thing as well. Here I can go and look in our library, so I can go and look for some content. We can have experts in the system, so you can have expertise against your profile, and that can drive who questions get routed to. So I may have a question maybe in one of the videos that I'm going to show you. That gets routed to me, and I can see instantly as soon as I log in that I've got questions to answer, and that could also come to me via email as well. We've also got groups in here. Now this is really a place that you can share, collaborate, and this might be a new hire group that you might be in. It might be around a particular subject. There's things like wikis, blogs, documentation. So really when we're talking about social collaboration, we're changing the way people are innovating together, the way they interact. We're getting over some of those social barriers. I'm a new starter to the business. I don't know who an expert is. Maybe I want to go and find that expert. So I could come in here and go and look for my people search and say, actually, I'm looking for an expert in, let's say, forecasting. So instantly I can see who those experts are, and then I can instantly click on them and then connect with them. So let's just say we've got the same time chat in here. So I can see here I've got a list of people. I've got my contacts. I might want to drop a quick note to Dan. I know that he's an expert on forecasting. I can send that over to Dan. Dan could then reply to me and say, yep, Lynsey, I am an expert. Go and check out this bit of content. Maybe sends me the link for that content that I can just then click on. Or maybe if Dan comes back to me and said, Lynsey, there's a great video that can help you with forecasting and the ethics in forecasting. So if I then come back to my screen, I can come in here and maybe look in our library. Okay, so Dan told me there's a video on ethics. I can search for that. We can start to configure as part of the implementation the audience that it's for. You can see that we've got a lot of medical references in here. That's borne out from some of the work we did with Boston Children's Hospital. So I could filter by that way. You can see in here I've got a document or I've got a video. Now I can watch that video. Now just a quick hands up in the audience. I don't know if everyone's a bit of a visual person like me, but outside of work, if you want to know how to do something, who goes onto YouTube? Exactly. So why not take that into the business? So I've got a question around a product. Maybe I just want to go and have a look at that video. So now I've got my video. Great, it's like YouTube. I can see exactly what can be done. So if I put that into practice, personally I'm quite an independent person. When I first moved into my flat, I needed to fix the cistern on my toilet. I'm not a plumber, haven't got the faintest idea. Went onto YouTube, found the video, bought all the bits, fantastic. Went to do it. How do I turn the water off? That wasn't on my YouTube video. What do I do? There's no way of asking that person that posted the video a question. So what we've done in this example is you can see these little, I don't know, squares you might want to call them. You can pause the video and ask questions. And then based on that profile information that I spoke about the expertise, it will route that question to those people. They'll answer it, it will then be stored. I can see all the questions in there, so if I click on that, it will take me to the point in the video, and it'll also take me the question that was asked before. Now that's great from a learner's point of view, or an employee's point of view, but it's also great for people in L&D, because you can now see where you're getting those questions in maybe one of the videos that you've put onto the system. Maybe you need a bit more of an in-depth document to go with it, or maybe another video, or something like that. But now, great, if I'd had that when I tried to fix my toilet, I could have found out how to switch my water off. Would have been great. Other things that you can do is when you load a video into the tool, we have these transcript service. Now, I often talk about the 3 J's when it comes to learning, so just in time, just for me, and just enough. So in here, it might be a 10-minute, 15-minute video on how to do something. I don't want to look at the whole thing. I just want a very specific part of that video to look at. So the system can automatically create you a transcript. You can edit that transcript as well. But I can now click on that transcript and it will take me to the relevant part of the video. So you can search that transcript as well. So if you're looking for a very specific bit, you can do that. Now, other things that you might want to do in here, we've got the same time chat facility, so I might see the expert in one of those questions and connect with them. I can do video chat, I can share documents. So there's quite a lot in terms of how you can change the way people interact and how they can get that sort of short nugget of information to them quite quickly in terms of learning. Now I think we're going to allow, was it 5 minutes at the end, which we're spot on time for any questions that anybody's got that want to go through. Have you got your? I have. Is there any questions from anyone? Anything that we've spoken about that anyone's got some questions on?
Oh, you're on the spot now.
I would like to ask how many people in IBM already using social learning? How many employees is already involved in social learning IBM?
In terms of developing it,
yes.
Or? That's a very good question. Oh, as in using it. So there's different parts of IBM that are using it. Do you know the exact numbers, Nick?
No, I mean, within IBM itself, there's about 450,000 of us who use the social collaborative tool. Within this particular tool, we have a number of technologies within it of connections and same time, which are used by millions worldwide currently. Within the social learning tool itself, we have a few specific customers that are building that reputation up, building the credibility. It's also being used internally. So I don't know if everyone has heard of Watson, the artificial intelligence computer network. So last year we invested $1 billion in a new division within IBM called the Watson Group. That is now currently being used within the business to help share use cases across that team about different applications for utilizing Watson. It's already been identified across the medical profession in terms of predictive analysis. We all know it sort of stemmed from the Jeopardy competition in the States, where it beat the top competitors or the top players. But it is now we're now looking at using that predictive analysis and artificial intelligence across different industries and finding how that best fits. This is a perfect tool for getting those use cases out there and sharing that with the wider team. Sorry, I'm right in the light here. Can't see a thing.
There's another question there. This could be interesting. He's going anyway.
Hi, I'm just really interested in how do you overcome the insurmountable challenge of making sure the data's always up to date, especially when you're talking about medical things like that?
Yep, that's a really good question. So part of the authoring tool, where you maybe want to author your content in here, there's lots of things that we can do in terms of it's more than just an authoring tool. I'm sure today you've seen, WYSIWYG authoring tools. So part of the award-winning LCMS on the back end of this, where you can create that content, you can author once and output to many. So it might be that you've got a compliance statement or some sort of legislation that goes into all of your courses. You update it in one place, updates all of your content, and when a learner then launches that content, they get the right, most up-to-date piece.
Any other questions at all?
Where organisations may already have bits and pieces of what you have up here, what do you do in order to integrate it into something like this?
Yeah, I mean, with IBM, we're a systems integration partner across, SAP, Oracle, lots of different other HR and payroll systems. So from this systems integration point of view, we have many customers who are looking at utilising this that have connections already, for example. And we have many customers that may have that as an on-premise installation. The integration is not a problem. This is a SaaS tool, so it's a cloud-based tool that we host that people can gain access from anywhere. It can be locked down using secure passwords, etc., but it can also be integrated across either other SaaS platforms or on-premise platforms. It's a fairly open thing, but we need to get under the skin of what the architecture looks like. I mean, ultimately today it wasn't really a product sale as such. It was just to share what we're doing as a business and where we're seeing that marketplace going. And I hope those insights have been quite useful for you to take back to your workplaces and work out exactly what are we doing within our organisation to make sure that people are getting the information they need at their fingertips and how we best utilising that. Because ultimately, if you're going to engage with your workplace, you want that pull from the workers to know where to go for to gain that information to do their jobs better. That's the whole idea about it. It's almost like any learning intervention. If people don't know how to do their job differently as a result of going through that, it's kind of a failure. You need to make sure you're changing behaviours and you're improving that performance, and people are getting it, because that's what engagement is. It's people who want to come along for the ride and really understand where the business is going and how they can contribute. So on that note, thank you, Lynsey, and thank you to all. But please do ask any questions at the back of the room afterwards. Thank you.